2, 1, and we should be going live. We're live. Yeah, buddy. Man, I'm excited for this one. We've been talking about doing this, and there's just so much we can nerd out about here.
Oh, I
But
can't wait.
yeah, man, thank you. I'm so grateful for you making the time and joining, and I'm so excited for all of you listening to this show today. AJ is just a killer with LinkedIn advertising, and it's going to be a really fun show. So, as a way to get started, please, my friend, brag about yourself. Give us a quick background as to what led you to where you're at in your career today.
Sure. So I started out in digital marketing. I've loved it for the last 13 years, but I really stumbled onto LinkedIn ads about 9 years ago. And the story there was I went into a company. My CMO, the new boss, said, "Oh, by the way, on day one, we just started a pilot using LinkedIn ads. So see what you can do with it," just kind of flippantly. And I was like, "Oh man, I've never heard of LinkedIn ads before. Like, what have I gotten myself into?" And about 2 weeks later, one of my sales reps came up to me and said, "AJ, we don't know what you're doing over here, but we're fighting over your leads. Keep it up." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I logged into our CRM. I took a look at the leads, and every single one of them that he was talking about were sourced from LinkedIn ads. And that was not the only advertising I was doing. So long story short, it worked well. So I kept investing. I eventually took it to become LinkedIn's largest spending ad account worldwide. And after running that for a few years, I went, okay, there's got to be more companies than just this one that would slay it on LinkedIn ads. So I want to go and help those brands out. And so I started B2 Linked about 6 years ago, and we're a specialty ad agency. Literally, LinkedIn ads is all we do.
Yeah, man, there's so much to break down with this too. LinkedIn ads is just this whole unique world. And what was LinkedIn ads like when you're running them then and comparison to where they're at now?
It's gotten quite a bit better, but it's always been 4 years behind Facebook ads. It's always just never held a candle to Google. It's always just been a very unique kind of animal. And even from day one, even back when you could get clicks for $2 a piece, that was still expensive at the time. Right now we're paying $8 to $11 per click using LinkedIn ads. But when we were paying $2 a click, we still called that expensive because Google and Facebook were still, significantly less than that. So they're making strides. I think they finally realized what tool they have and how valuable it is, and they're putting resources into making it better. But it's still a little ways behind the others.
Yeah. Do you think Microsoft's acquisition, that's a positive for the future of LinkedIn advertising?
I do think so, because I was a longtime Bing ads advocate. I still am. I guess they call it Microsoft advertising now. And I watched that team. I know them quite well. I watched that team take a product from zero to being in direct competition with the world's most sophisticated ad platform in just a matter of years. And so I think if LinkedIn will take anyone from Microsoft Advertising's advice on how to build an ad platform, ultimately, I think it's going to be a really good thing for them.
Yeah, interesting. So what is it that makes or breaks for good LinkedIn advertising?
Yeah, I break it down with an acronym called AMO, AMO, and it's what you need for a successful social media ads campaign. And your A is your audience, it's who you're targeting and going after. M is your message for here's what I'm saying and what the prospect is going to see. And then O is your offer. And this is what you're asking people to do, what your call to action is, your lead magnet. And what we find is the reason we are willing to pay LinkedIn's high prices is access to that audience. So the A is really taken care of on LinkedIn. We're just ultra specific, targeting only the exact right people who can afford us, who feel the pain that we solve. The message really depends on the offer, but the offer is by far the most important make or break thing with your campaign. Because I mean, picture yourself in just surfing through LinkedIn. If you saw an ad that said, "Click here to talk to our sales rep, here's what we do," you're going to think to yourself, I'm not here to do business with a vendor or find a new vendor. I'm on my way to go do something else. And chances are you're like everyone else. You wouldn't click that ad. And so if you're trying to run with that kind of offer, like cut right to the chase, talk to sales, it'll be insanely expensive and you'll get very few leads out of it. But if you can move a little ways up the friction scale where you're going to provide a lot of value to someone, and in exchange, you're asking for their contact info so you can follow up. We call it gated content or lead magnets. That seems to be the best approach to LinkedIn ads. And so if you have a piece of content, let's say a webinar or a guide that your prospects just look at and go, oh, that is amazing, I need that. That's how you know your LinkedIn ads campaign is going to be a huge success.
Really interesting. So what you're saying is, and a lot of people who are failing, they're just going straight for the meet with us consultation or some sort of buy off the platform. The most successful that you're seeing, there is some sort of gated content for remarketing. You're not going to like land that lead directly in from that LinkedIn ad. It's more of a long-term play to build your pipeline and funnel. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, we have a couple different approaches you can take after you actually get someone to submit their information. Usually larger companies, more enterprise, it's not their first rodeo, and they'll say, okay, just because someone downloaded a guide doesn't mean they're ready to talk to someone. We're going to put them in our nurture stream. We're going to wait until they get a lead score that's high enough to push them to someone in sales. And so you'll have those. But I would say the majority of LinkedIn advertisers are not the enterprise, and they need leads. They've got an SDR team or sales team that's ready to start following up with people. So the best approach I can recommend is to a salesperson, like, yes, know what this person signed up for. They downloaded a guide. It wasn't a demo request. So you have to approach it as I'm here to be a resource to you and be helpful to you. I'm not just trying to sell you. And if you can really customize that approach and make it, I'm here to be a resource, to be a consultant to you, help you solve your problems. Obviously it takes more work to research every lead like that, but you can actually take someone who downloaded a white paper and turn it into a sales conversation, usually 10 to 20% of the time.
And that's where there's always that push and pull and fight between marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, and salespeople just wanting the lowest hanging possible fruit that they can go in and close. They don't want to do the work. And that's also where a lot of leadership don't invest into, LinkedIn marketing or ads, because some of them do take a little bit of extra work and development and everything. So it's like, how do you get your clients to understand the balance between that? Something I've always fought an uphill battle on for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm at a nice advantage here because I came from the world of search. And so Google ads and SEO is what I did for like the first 7 years of my career. And so I get it when I'm talking to a company who says, we're used to Google ads leads where they are requesting a demo with software. And so we just hop on the phone and give them what they ask. And LinkedIn ads it's so different. I mean, any type of social advertising is different. You have to offer value first, and it's going to be a little bit longer term. So the way I kind of pitch it to people to picture is LinkedIn ads is really good at making sure that you're getting exactly the right people onto your website or to engage with your brand. And then retargeting and search, they're more bottom of funnel. That's when you're going to get them back and convince them. So use LinkedIn for mid to top of the funnel, introduce people to your brand, and then rely on search channels and more direct channels to get more serious with them.
Mm-hmm.
The big challenge that most people who run Google ads face, especially if they have a high ticket item, is the sales team just says, oh man, we're getting a ton of tire kickers and mom and pops here. Could we qualify them a little bit? And that's because, you're targeting a keyword. You're not targeting or filtering out people who wouldn't be able to afford what you do. LinkedIn ads solves that problem, but it's going to have a little bit longer of a sales cycle.
Yeah, gives you a next level. And something that's interesting too, just kind of shifting here, is people don't realize there's actually 3, maybe even 4 different ways to do LinkedIn advertising. And so what's your perspective on that and the different angles? What do you prefer? What do you, what approach do you take for each of those?
Yeah. So there are 4 different ad formats that you can choose. It's like, I know no matter which ad format I choose, I can target the same awesome audience that I just can't target anywhere else. But then you get to choose, all right, where am I going to show up? I could show up in the news feed as people are kind of perusing LinkedIn. I could show in the right rail on 2 different ad formats. One's called a text ad and one's called dynamic ads. And those are only to people who are on desktop. So you can kind of predict what kind of mindset they're going to be in. And then the last one actually shows up in your inbox. It's kind of like a sponsored email that will come to them. They call that sponsored messaging. And I like to start with the news feed. It's not the most expensive or the least expensive way of reaching an audience, but it's a really happy medium. Any kind of offer you have, you can fit into 2 text fields and an image or a video that you get with sponsored content in the news feed. So I'd say start there and then test into the other ad formats.
Mm-hmm. So expand on that a little more. Do you do the other ad formats, or do you really focus in on the news feed formats?
Yeah, just some personality of the different ad formats. So you have the sponsored content, which it's the news feed. It's everyone's default experience when they come to LinkedIn, either on mobile or desktop. So you're going to get in front of a lot of people, and you're probably going to pay like $8 to $11 a click. Then the right rail ads, you'll probably pay between $3 and $8 per click. But because they're in the right rail, only on desktop, 80% of your users are going to be on mobile. So you lose part of your audience. And then plus, because they're obviously ads, they have really low engagement rates. The average is something like 2.5 clicks out of every 10,000 times your ads are shown.
Wow.
So it's cheaper and you have great targeting, but by using it, like unless you have a massive audience, it's probably going to be hard to spend your whole budget. And then you have the email one that, like, how you feel when someone sends you a spam email where you go, ooh, that email's a little bit intimate and it feels like you're encroaching on me. So it takes a special kind of offer. You want an ad approach that feels special, feels very VIP, and doesn't feel like a spam email.
Yeah, you got to be really thoughtful about it for sure. Because I've gotten emails where I'm like, ugh, and I've gotten emails where I'm like, whoa, and then I like jump on it. Even I've gone through funnels, and I'm a marketer, so I'm racking up everyone's ad spend because I'm always looking through and clicking through, and everyone probably, if they knew it was me, they would hate me because I'm racking up everyone's ad spend that they're using on LinkedIn.
But it's all anonymous.
Yeah. Just trying to learn, man. It's so crazy because I've done Facebook ads and used Instagram and LinkedIn still to this day. It's hard. It seems like there is you got to be in a very particular way to allocate budget, type of product service in order to do it. It doesn't seem like it's really open for everybody and anybody that wants to be advertising on the platform.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I get, I'm out speaking a lot and I have a podcast. And so we get a good amount of leads, and I end up telling more than half of them who come to us that, hey, LinkedIn ads is not the right channel for you. Like, just don't even worry about it. And that's because the costs are high and the sales cycles are longer. And some people, it's more about quantity than it is about quality. And so they're probably going to do better on Google and Facebook, honestly. So yeah, I think there's a couple strikes against LinkedIn, but realize that there's no competitive product. If you're trying to get your message in front of an exact right kind of purchaser in business to business, chances are there's no other way you can reach that person at the scale you can with LinkedIn. So we kind of have to pay up for it.
What's your perspective on organic and using an organic approach versus paid advertising?
I love organic for LinkedIn. And I don't talk about this a whole lot because basically I don't have anything to sell anyone on organic. We don't provide that as a service, but I feel like I'm a student of the organic side. And what we find is when we're working with a client, let's say we've been running ads for a couple months and they've got a sales team outbound, reaching out to connect with people, the tone of the conversation that sales starts to have with people totally changes. It shifts from like who are you and why are you in my inbox to oh, I've heard of you guys before. You must be legit. Like, let's talk. So I think it's really not one or the other. I mean, maybe if you're super limited on budget, you kind of have to choose which one you go, but they work so well hand in hand together and they're quite different beasts. So I'm a big fan.
What are some strategies that are working for you on the organic side, you and your team?
What we find is really posting. Like, LinkedIn is the easiest network in the world to go viral on. And I'm sure your listeners probably already know this, but the reason why is because only about 4% of LinkedIn users post in their feed. Only
Great
4%
content.
are creators. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like
Everyone
1 million out of 600, 500 million or something. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, when someone logs into LinkedIn, there has to be stuff in their feed. LinkedIn's got to give stuff to them. But if only 4% are creating, then what that means is when you post something that gets a lot of social engagement, especially comments, that's when LinkedIn goes, ooh, there's value here. Let's let this go viral and let's show this to people outside of your network. And, I've gone viral for things like a picture of a fortune cookie or my breakfast or ranting about the Oxford comma. And what's so interesting, like none of those things have anything to do with what I do. Like they don't have to do with LinkedIn ads. And so I'm not going to get leads out of them. But what ends up happening is you go viral and then all of a sudden in your inbox, you'll get a whole bunch of people saying, hey, I love that post you did about your breakfast. By the way, I thought of you this week because my boss was talking about trying out LinkedIn ads. We should hop on a call. And I'm like, wow, that's all it took was getting in front of you with something unrelated so that you would remember me and basically become a lead. So
Yeah.
I think there's value there in just staying top of mind.
Yeah, getting the attention, and you have a nice profile, you have authority, like all the other stuff for organic success is set up. So when you do that, I think a lot of people, they inherently know that, and then they try to go viral on LinkedIn with vanity stuff, and that's all they try, and then they never really even put content or materials about their business anywhere, and then it happens and they don't get sales from it, and then they get frustrated with LinkedIn, and then none of it ends up working for them.
Yeah, it's a great point. Something else that kind of accidentally worked well for me, I have a policy that I only connect with people on LinkedIn if I know them or we have a good reason to get to work together. So I'm not just out there connecting just for fun to add to my numbers. Like if we're going to be connected, I want it to be a meaningful connection. So I've got like 900 something invitations sitting in my profile right now, and I can't get through them. So the thing I'm looking for is when someone customizes that message to me, like, here's why I want to be connected. That's what I look for. And so if someone just sends the default, I'm not accepting the connection request. I won't even see it. And because I have this big pile up that's just wasting my time every time I look at it, I ended up taking my profile from the connect button to the follow button. And because I knew so few of these people I'm actually going to connect with anyway, so maybe I could cut it out and get people to stop sending so many connection requests. And what happened is immediately my number of followers was just skyrocketing. And, I'm only connected to something like 4,000 people, but I've got, I think, close to 18,000 followers.
Yeah.
And I credit it all to the fact that like the default button is
rearrange the button over. Yeah. Interesting thought on that too. It's funny because I remember, I'm always self-educating. So I actually initially found you through your LinkedIn course that you created with lynda.com. And I'm like, oh, I need to know this cat. And then I sent you a custom message. I think I even followed up with you with either audio or video. It was custom. You had no idea who the heck I was. And we built a relationship. We talked probably last year, and we just softly kept in touch. And now here we are. We've even got some partnership stuff going together. So it is amazing if you're doing it the right way. I think a lot of people doing it, maybe they just don't even know, but they do have something of value. So it depends. I look through people's profiles when they reach out to connect with me. And then, because I've had people who don't send any message and then they connect with me. And then immediately they're like, hey, I saw a post of yours. I was wondering if you might be able to help me with X. And I'm like, I wonder if I ignored that connection request, if that lead wouldn't have came otherwise. So there's a yin and yang to what you're saying. I think.
Oh, there totally is. In fact, I'll even share with everyone what your approach was to me, because it really was brilliant. You said, AJ, going through your course now, great work. I was in the process of finding an ads partner for our clients to tandem the organic and content production we do. Great timing. Let's chat.
Yeah. Dude, so there's value in there too. Yeah. Because you could even look at my stuff and be like, okay, this guy does content and they do, other marketing. So yeah, there's value there.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. It wasn't that difficult. Like you can do that with anybody. I mean, anybody can get their foot in the door with anyone, just using the right, like if you're meeting someone in person, how are you going to approach that conversation in person? LinkedIn shouldn't be any different to that.
Totally. And people need to shift their mindset to realize that this is like a networking event, but it's the digital analogy for it. So you don't run up to someone with your business card out trying to like hunt them down and turn them into a prospect. Treat it like you treat it super custom. It was a brilliant approach, and of course I'm going to accept that.
Yeah. What else is at what point does someone go from organic? Like, when do you recommend someone go from organic into paid ads on LinkedIn?
Yeah. Biggest thing I can think of here is volume and budget. If you are, let's say you have very little budget, then like I wouldn't even suggest approaching LinkedIn ads unless you've got a budget of at least $5,000 a month. Of course, you can do it for less, but we find that it's usually about $5,000 in ad spend before you get enough leads that you can tell the impact on the business. You can judge the lead quality. So if you have less than that, then I probably wouldn't even try. But on the organic side, I mean, if you've got Sales Navigator, you can reach out to 75 people per day with a connection request. And, a certain number of those will turn into phone meetings, and you can kind of track that down. If you can grow at the rate that you want to as a company by contacting 75 people per day and nurturing those relationships, then I wouldn't try advertising. But the beautiful part about advertising is this is something you can turn on and walk away from. It's you're paying LinkedIn $8 to $11 a click, but it's working while you're sleeping, and inbound leads are just going to come to you, and you don't have to do as much manual work.
It gets scary when you're because I've done it a couple times and like dip my toe in and I'm like, and like pull it back. I'm like, some of it's, I think there's one I paid like $40 for one click.
Yeah. Oh man.
It scared the hell out of me. So, man, but yeah. So build it organically, and then $5,000 a month is a good starting place to build from there. How much were you managing for your past company? You're one of the top spenders on LinkedIn. What level were you doing that at?
Oh yeah, it was 6 figures a month. I probably shouldn't tell the exact amount because people can see the company, but yeah, I think the largest spenders on LinkedIn are probably in the 7 figures a month. But at that point, 6 figures was the top.
Yeah. And even then, it's still not near the level of people that are pumping paid ads into Facebook and other platforms. It's kind of this big green space. You just got to kind of like bite the bullet and go into it, knowing, it's going to take time to build, and it's going to cost you a little bit up front too.
Totally. I spent $130 million on ads, working my butt off over the last 9 years to get to this point. And I know Facebook and Google advertisers who spend that in like 3 quarters.
Right.
So anyway, I try to feel like a big guy. So
right. But where you can really win is, you're saying, that combination of paid and organic, not just being reliant on one over the other.
Yeah. And then it's really hard to determine the effect of each on the other. But we know that the organic approach and the paid approach together, they increase the effectiveness. So it's going to be hard to see in the numbers, but it's definitely worth running those in tandem.
Right. Are you finding best video or static image, or what's working mostly for the actual content and the craft long? Because you can't even really do long form content so much in the what do you call it? The teaser text for the post.
Yeah. It's a really good point. For me, LinkedIn ads is all about efficiency. I mean, the pricing on LinkedIn is already so high, and what we're so good at is minimizing that cost. So when we take a new advertiser who's never advertised before, our goal is keep risk low and get as much traffic for as little as possible to test out and see, is this worthwhile? And the way that we do that is not by using video, because video introduces so many just like complications into the process. Yeah.
Wow.
We'll start with a static image post, and then we'll test into video when we know it's predictable, we know how this is going to work.
So surprising. I almost anticipated you'd say video all the way. Video is the best way to get attention, but it ends up racking the cost up too much.
Yeah. What happens?
Video?
Yeah. What happens is when you have a video ad, there's essentially 2 calls to action no matter what. There's the first, you got to watch this video, and then I'm going to ask you to do something at the end of the video. And we know, especially in B2B, the more things we ask someone to do, the more fallout we're going to have of people who don't complete it. And so, LinkedIn's going to charge you about the same amount because it's the same inventory, whether you have an image or a video. And so with the video, because fewer people are going to get to what you want, it means your cost per click is going to usually be a lot higher. So my approach is, we know that video is much more powerful than static. I know watching me talk for 30 seconds probably gives you more of that know, like, and trust factor than downloading 5 white papers of mine. But from a cost per click, make it predictable, what's our conversion rate, telling us our cost per lead, it's usually better to start with static. And if you have good video creative, yeah, definitely test it. But leading with it's a little tough.
Yeah. So lead with a visually appealing, something that's going to like capture attention. Is it kind of like Facebook where you're getting a lot of pushback on like heavy text in the actual graphic, or do you do mostly like very visually heavy?
Okay, so it's a really, really good question. And one that I because I've done a lot of advertising on Facebook, I hated the 20% rule of like, I can't put too much text in this image, otherwise they'll turn it down or really throttle my traffic. And so on LinkedIn, I went to it like, yes, I can use as much text as I want. This is amazing. The reins are off. And what we found in all of our testing is like, you treat your image for what it is. It's meant to get people to stop scrolling and read your ad copy. And so we found that the more text we had in the image, the more the image was trying to sell people, the worse it performed. And so we started treating it like a billboard where images have 7 or fewer words in them, and they can be big. They can take up a lot of room, but keep them simple and let the ad copy do the selling. And we found a lot more success doing that.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is literally just like trying to craft a billboard. You got some traffic that's coming through to it. And especially now with lack of travel, events, conferences, trade shows, like if you're listening to this, you're considering LinkedIn ads, you should seriously reach out to AJ. I mean, now there's no better time. More people are logged in, online, engaged. Have you seen like even with quarantine, like numbers have actually gone up in conversions at all, or has that been pretty skewed?
Yeah, it's actually been really interesting to watch. I know because we had like 40% of our clients pause that first 2 weeks of the COVID panic. And so I was like, oh, there's a lot of people pulling back budget right now. This will be interesting to watch. And what we saw was, yeah, costs per click definitely fell. And as more and more people were working from home, we saw a lot more impressions on the platform because people aren't embarrassed to have social media or a job hunting site up on their computer when their boss walks by. And I actually just finished an analysis yesterday. I haven't written a blog post about it yet, but from just like February to March to April, we saw cost per click drop like 20 to 30% in a lot of cases. And it didn't seem that drastic to me. When we were going through it, I was like, oh, it's probably come down 5 or 10%. No, I took all the data from all the accounts I have access to, and like it's high.
That's significant. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Man, you're making me really want to like just diving back in. I've always just dipped my toe in. It's just the cost on Facebook ads, but I keep seeing, I'm like, so many people are not doing it. So if you're there, it's like it's a blue ocean of advertising. It's just so expensive sometimes, but
yes. And just to add to that, I have people tagging me and reaching out all the time saying like, hey, I know you're a LinkedIn ads guy. Why are LinkedIn ads so bad? Like, why is this person targeting me? Why are these bad ads running? And on one hand, I don't know who's willing to pay LinkedIn's prices when you're not being effective, it's not working. But it also works really well in our favor. We know that LinkedIn's average click-through rate on a sponsored content ad is about 0.4%, a little less than 0.5%. And when we launch ads, we've got a very specific kind of criteria we follow. Here's what an ad should contain and the order and all that. When we launch, we usually get double or triple LinkedIn's average. And so I think what that means is when you're doing things right, it's really easy to stand head and shoulders above all the people who are doing it wrong.
So I'm going to pull that out a little bit more from you. What is the targeting secret on there? Cause there's even the targeting's kind of, I know you can pull industry and then job titles. In Facebook. It's recommended. Like if I do Facebook ads, I pull LinkedIn as an interest on Facebook ads.
Love it.
So I've gotten sales from that before, pretty high dollar deals and everything. But what's the secret to that on the targeting side for newsfeed ads?
Yeah, on targeting side, understand that people, LinkedIn usually gives you 3 or 4 different ways of targeting the same person. And so we like to start by targeting all of them. Like, don't just go after job titles and go, it worked or it didn't work. We're going to target the same persona by job title, by department and seniority, by skills and seniority, and by groups and seniority. And that's 4 different ways of targeting the same person. But over time, we're going to find, job title is about $1 more per click. Maybe that's worth it. Maybe it's not, but it's worth keeping in mind. And oh wow, the quality, the lead quality that comes from groups targeting is super high, but it's not very high volume. Let's go see if we can eke some more volume out of that or add some more groups. So it gives you a level of power that, because your competitors are likely not going through the process of creating 4 audiences for every one they want to do, you can win.
So you're creating 4 different ad sets and then testing those 4 different audiences.
Yeah.
Or your permanent. And then do you cull, like, how much time do you give them before you cull each ad set out?
It depends on the client's objective, really. If goal is volume, we will very quickly cut the ads that get the lower click-through rate because we want to get as much out of that audience as possible. But if the goal is lead quality, we might let a lower performing ad go for a while because we don't know how it translates to lead quality until you've spent like a couple thousand on it. So it depends a little bit, but worth keeping in mind that each targeting type has a different personality. And when you find it, you can leverage it.
And so you like the groups, using groups to target. So do you just do some organic research on the groups before you pull it up into the actual ad sets?
No, it's actually simpler than that. Right within the ads platform, you just go to group targeting and you just type a keyword. So if I know I'm trying to reach digital marketers, I might type digital marketing and check all the groups there. And I might type,
or HubSpot group.
Yes.
Or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, cool. Any other strategy tips, secret sauce? Give us the secret sauce, man. How can people really be winning at this? I think now's the best time in the world to start jumping in.
Yeah, it's great. One thing that I would want to highlight, this is the kind of stuff I'm thinking about while I'm trying to go to sleep at night. Even if you run LinkedIn ads and it's not successful, realize that the data you get from it can be incredible. Like, think your own private focus group level. And I'll give you an idea. Let's say, for instance, you want to target marketing decision makers. Rather than just targeting one campaign that's like marketing department with manager and above seniorities, instead, I'm going to break that into 4 different campaigns. One's going to be marketing managers, marketing directors, marketing VPs, and CMOs. And if I show them the same A/B test, the same 2 ads, now I'm finding out my ideal target audience. Here's how each seniority responds to my calls to action. Here's how they respond to the pain points I'm pressing on, or the aspirations that I'm passing them. And so even if that campaign were a total failure, just by looking at the click-through rate difference and the cost per click difference between each of these audiences tells me so much that I can then go and craft all of my other marketing content for going after them. It's better data than you could get unless you were going to put together like a big survey, and it's a lot more work to do that.
Yeah. And maybe even more expensive, even though it seems pricey the way you're doing it. And if you're set up the right way, even getting those click-throughs, that's all data that you can go in and retarget, right? And that's something else too. Do you recommend, like, even if you're not running LinkedIn ads, everyone should have the pixel up on their website so that when they do, they have historical data that they can retarget? Do you would you recommend starting there at all? Or
I definitely do recommend everyone, whether or not you're going to pay for ads, go and open up an ads account and install the tracking pixel. and not for retargeting purpose. I know you know Facebook ads, and there's a beautiful thing about Facebook, which is when that tag is on your website, whether you've defined an audience or not, Facebook's paying attention. And if I went 30 days later and said, hey, Facebook, give me a list of for the last 30 days, the people who've visited this page, Facebook's like, oh, yep, I gotcha. LinkedIn doesn't have that. Like the day that you put the pixel on there, it's not paying attention until you go and tell LinkedIn, hey, pay attention to anyone who hits this page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's not my biggest reason for wanting that tag on there. The biggest reason is what many of you already know as Google Analytics, Facebook Analytics. There's one that it should be called LinkedIn Analytics, but it's not. It's called LinkedIn Website Demographics. Without spending a penny, you can go and put this tag on your website, and as soon as 300 people that LinkedIn knows have hit your website, all of a sudden they're going to start giving you free data on the professional makeup of everyone who comes to your site. And so I can literally look at mine and say, ooh, here were the 20 companies who interacted with my website in a meaningful way. Here are the job titles or the seniorities who tend to frequent it. Here's where in the country they're coming from. And that's powerful. I mean, that's data you don't even have to pay for.
And where do you get this data from? Where do you get the data? Access it?
Yeah, so you go in and create a LinkedIn ads account. LinkedIn.com/ads is the fastest way to get there. You create the account. You pull the pixel that you need to put on your website through the dropdown called Account Assets. It's called the Insight tag. You install that. Once that's all done, then just right at the top of your ad account, there's a button that just calls demographics. Maybe it says website demographics. You click that button, and then LinkedIn's just giving you free business data on your website traffic. And you can even get really ninja, like craft individual segments of show me what people look like professionally just when they hit my thank you pages, or just from my job search page, or my product pages. You can get pretty ninja.
Wow, you just totally blew my, that is valuable, extremely, because I've had the pixel on there. It's on all of our landing pages, it's on all of our sites and everything, but I was just using it thinking like, well, when I get really aggressive on LinkedIn ads, I'll use that as retargeting, but you can actually use that to be crafting your main marketing message.
Yes. And now that you have that installed, go check the free demographics on all those clients and see if there's any like actionable stuff you can get out of it.
Powerful. That's awesome. And do you, like, for ad spend, do you have like do you run it on like daily budget or any recommendation there? Or?
Yes. We generally with our client have a budget that we get to spend for the whole month. And you can go into LinkedIn and say, here's my daily budget of how much you're allowed to spend every day. Mm-hmm. We usually separate those two things. We set our daily budgets way higher than they actually are. And the reason why we do this is if we hit that daily budget sometime, let's say during the midday, what it means is we were bidding too aggressively for our traffic and we ran out of budget halfway through the day. So we raise our budget so significantly that we can't hit them. Mm-hmm. And then we, if we're spending too much, we lower our bids and we make ourselves less aggressive in the auction. And LinkedIn naturally charges us less and also sends a little bit less traffic. So if you use your bids manually to control your traffic, that's the best way to be efficient, to get the lowest cost per click that is possible.
The ninja stuff. And those of you listening, he's got so much more content and everything. And so first off, I can't thank you enough for making the time to do this. I know you're really busy kicking ass for your clients over there, and I really appreciate it. How can people find you, follow you, get into contact with you?
Oh, thanks, Connor. It's a huge compliment to even be invited on your show. So thanks for letting me nerd out with you. Yeah, easiest way to get in touch with me, I think there's two things. The first is just go to our website, b2linked.com. If you fill out the form on any of those pages, you don't go to a sales rep and you don't get put on a spammy newsletter. It just comes directly to my inbox, and I'm not a sales guy, so feel free to ask whatever you want. The other thing is, if you really enjoyed like the depth that we got into, because on most podcasts, I don't get this geeky. If this was fun to you, you definitely got to listen to the LinkedIn Ads Show podcast. We are really insanely deep. It's like a master class on LinkedIn ads. So follow that one and check that out.
And you even have a lynda.com course too, which
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just find that if you have Sales Navigator, you have access to lynda.com, right?
Yes, exactly. It's the advertising on LinkedIn course. I mean, you'll see me just this like chubby ginger pointing at you and smiling.
I think I've got it pulled up over here. I'm just going to use that as a screenshot for the post. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be easy. Like you can't miss it. You just search for LinkedIn ads or LinkedIn advertising, and I'm pretty much the only one.
Dude, chubby ginger, no more. You're looking lean and mean with the running machine at your desk over there.
Oh yeah, I work on a treadmill desk. One of these days I'm going to stop when I look like you, but unfortunately I still look like me.
And also give a quick explainer of our recent partnership on Sales Navigator and what people can get out of that. We'll make sure to attach the links to this, and we'll share it out on LinkedIn and, give people access to that as well.
Yes. Okay. So if you've followed Connor at all, you know the value behind Sales Navigator as a tool. It's unparalleled. You can't get anything like it. If you just go on your own to the sign up page, they'll give you a free 30-day trial. But Connor actually has a link that will get him a free 60-day trial. So he'll share that out. Definitely take advantage of it. 60 free days of a tool that you're probably going to want anyway. It's worthwhile.
Well worth it. I even paying a year in advance on it is well worth it. And if you're doing it with paid ads, you're rocking, you're rolling.
Yes.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And all of you listening, do not forget, make sure you subscribe on all your favorite podcast apps, wherever you're listening right now. Please leave a 5-star review. As AJ knows, it always helps with the rankings and everything. And give us a shout on social media too. We'll see you guys.